I really don't like this news, and I'm starting to sour a lot on Ethan Klein, even though I was somewhat sympathetic to the fact that his children were targeted by people on the internet that didn't like his political opinions. It's like, okay, well, don't like it when you start bringing in people's children, getting them involved, attacking them, or trying to use federal services to have said children taken away from those people with false belief, false cause. That's pretty fucked up. You know, I had some sympathy for Ethan Klein because of that, but lately, that sympathy's kind of been burning away, if I'm being honest. I recently did a bit of digging into the Ethan Klein and Denham's lawsuit, and I did a whole segment about that when we got that news, and I don't think a lot of people realize how much a decision not in Denham's favor on that lawsuit could have impacted the entire legal precedent around fair use online. It really could have opened up some scary, scary doors. Now, that's particularly in the realm of copyright. Copyright law is really important because any set precedent there directly impacts a massive emergent industry in content creation online. A single lawsuit decision could flip the entire content landscape on its head in a bad way. So, I can't lie. I'm not really all that upset that Ethan lost his lawsuit, to tell you the truth. I'm gonna be real. If he had won his lawsuit, there's a pretty good chance that our freedom to respond in certain ways to certain things that people post online may have been lost. I am very much I would say I'm like a fair use extremist in a sense. Like, I am extremely pro fair use, and I think that it should have as much protection as possible, even if it means that some things that are not fair use end up being allowed through. I think it should definitely be more liberal than conservative when it comes to what situations it actually applies to. So, with that said, shouldn't surprise you that I'm not too happy to hear this news either. Seems like this is continuing to be a kind of petty revenge using lawfare quest that Ethan Klein has gone on. And man, it doesn't matter what you think of the people he's going after here. It just feels like crash out behavior. And I get it. You know, his children got targeted or whatever, but at a certain point, going scorched earth like this just invites more of it. Like, to be completely real, like, knowing how the internet works, the way that Ethan is behaving, if anything, will invite more harassment, and the harassers will no doubt attempt to target his children in the future. Like, if he really wants to prevent that kind of thing from happening at all, I can't say I know exactly what he should have done, but I don't know if, like, continued legal battle is the best way. It just kind of feels like a kind of Streisand effect that we're seeing happen now. And it all culminates with now Ethan Klein has announced that he's suing Idubbbz, who, it just feels so spiteful. Like, the internet's been on Idubbbz's ass for years now. He's constantly getting bullied. He and his wife's marriage are always getting, like, picked apart and investigated and, you know, speculated on. And that just, like, this is a dude, and, like, he lost a lot of his income, too. He, like, makes no money now, from what I understand. So it just feels extra spiteful to come at him with a lawsuit. Now, to be fair, there was a cease and desist, but I don't know, man. I think there's a reason why most people, we've got Moist Critical here, have taken the side of thinking Ethan Klein's just gone too far. Like, he needs to cool his jets. If for anything else, his own good, but certainly the good of all creators and the kind of chilling effect that this is having. And I know that they hate that phrase used in the context of the situation, but it's a valid concern. There's a reason why so many creators have that concern. But let's dive into it, shall we? Why Ethan Klein is now suing Idubbbz. Also, I looked into it. I don't think Ethan Klein has said anything about his lost case against Denham's. So I don't know if the case is still going and he's going to do an appeal or whatever it would be. I have no clue. Maybe he's just staying silent because the court case isn't actually over yet. But it seems like he might be just trying to avoid discussing how the last case went. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, let's see what Critical has to say about all this, because I feel like the fact that he is against Ethan on this tells you a lot.
I just heard about the H3 versus Idubbbz defamation lawsuit and spent the last 3 or so hours learning about it and getting into the nitty-gritty, figuring out all the bits and pieces and getting all the morsels of information I could find to really put the nipple clamps on it and figure out what all the hoopla is. And it is a real thing. The pugilistic legal paperwork has been filed against Idubbbz, so now they're gonna duke it out, not with knuckle sandwiches, but with extremely expensive litigation. Offer it before I even get into the spaghetti and meatballs of the actual...
Like, keep in mind here, I don't even think Ethan Klein believes this case is going to hold up. Like, I listened to Ethan Klein's explanation of why he thinks this case is justified, and I'm listening to it, and all I can hear are a million different ways the judge is going to say, sorry, hold on. So you're telling me you're suing him for something someone else said? And Ethan Klein's legal counsel is going to be like, well, no, he platformed what was said and framed it as if it wasn't a joke. It's like, I just don't see that argument working. Like, you're trying to sue someone for platforming someone else's joke, and you refuse to sue the person who made the joke, but you're suing the person who platformed the joke. I don't think the judge is going to... it's just not going to make any sense to the judge. Like, it's very clear that spite against Idubbbz is motivating this, and the judge is not going to be able to see the line of logic for why Idubbbz is guilty of anything here, unless said judge is sympathetic to literally Ethan's entire experience dealing with his detractors, and the judge is not going to be. So this just doesn't look good. Just a bad look.
Story here. There is just something that pets my peeves. There is something that grinds my gears, greases my cheeks so much I can't resist yapping about it briefly. When I was in the trenches digging around for information about what all of this is about, I kept seeing people say, I refuse to cover these kind of things for a variety of different reasons. I'm ignoring it, this and that. I don't know how many more times I need to say this. I am just really not online that much these days. The only streams I watch are like Summer Games Fest and like events like that, but I don't watch streams. I don't watch a lot of YouTube, and I don't go on Twitter, like, at all. I still have Twitter because I send and reply to DMs through there sometimes for like events, like Tyler won's League of Legends tournament. I heard from him on Twitter DM, so I have it for reasons like that. But I don't, like, doom scroll Twitter and see a bunch of things anymore. Look at the last tweet I made. So, like, I don't see a lot of these things that are going on anymore. But for some reason, everyone jumps to, oh, he must be ignoring it. He's got to be ignoring it. We can really tell a lot about this guy from the things he refuses to cover. I just don't see them. The things I do hear about come from my friends sending them to me, or when I stream chat telling me about them, putting them on my radar. But if neither of those two avenues show it to me or tell me about it, I just never hear it.
It sucks so much that instead of the left infiltrating the drama community ended up infiltrating the left. And now so much of left-wing politics is like finding random influencers and telling them they need to comment on drama between two left-leaning influencers. Like, I would much rather people be pressuring Charlie to give his takes on the state of America under Trump than whose side he takes in the Ethan Klein versus Idubbbz drama. But, you know, obviously we are YouTubers, and this could have an impact on all creators, whatever precedent Ethan Klein might set. Now it's about what you can say about other creators, what you can even jokingly say about it. Not even that. Essentially, if Ethan Klein wins this lawsuit, it will dictate a precedent that you can lose a lawsuit and be sued for repeating a joke made by someone else about someone else as an online creator. That's a scary precedent.
About it. And I'm not even a fucking streamer anymore, not full time. I'm like a semi-retired streamer. I stream sometimes, and sometimes I'll stream like 3-4 days in a row. But basically what I do now is I just play like old school games, like a lot of retro games or a lot of Steam cum dumpster games, like actual trash.
Base.
So like I'm not even really a streamer, so I don't even see a lot of that either. So like it's not me avoiding certain things for a nefarious reason. I just literally don't ever hear about it, so I never learn about it. Now, there is some stories that I do hear about and get really invested in, like Bricks and Minifigs versus Reckless Ben. I've been very glued to that one, had my finger on the pulse of. But that was something I was put on my radar by friends and stream chat. So, genuinely, I am just not online that much, so I don't see a lot of it. So, with that out of the way, I did spend like the last 3 hours learning about this defamation lawsuit between H3 and Idubbbz, because that did sound pretty concerning. Because there's always been like an unwritten rule on the internet, not just YouTube, where if there's beef online, it stays on.
You don't take it to court.
And you hand...
Like the taking it to court shit, and like this is the thing. Ethan Klein is a business emperor at this point. I don't think people realize how much fuck you money Ethan Klein has because he's not this massive influencer anymore. Like he's big, but he's not like H3H3 during its peak big. Like the H3 podcast was very different when I watched it. When I watched it, they were in this room. It was like a dark room. It almost looked like Joe Rogan's podcast set, to be honest. They would bring on guests, and it was a very organized podcast. Like it was Hila and Ethan were the hosts. I think they had one person behind a mic, kind of like Jamie on Joe Rogan, and they would bring on a guest or two guests. And I remember they brought on like Total Biscuit. I remember when Boogie was a guest. I remember when they had Filthy Frank or Joji as a guest. That's when I was watching the H3 podcast, and they owned the internet, and even before that, they owned the internet with their basic videos. But nowadays, they're a little bit more niche. For sure, they're a little bit more niche, but where Ethan Klein's gotten a massive amount of money, from what I understand, is diversifying into a clothing brand and a few other businesses on top of that, I think. One of them is Teddy Fresh, which is like actually a successful clothing brand, as it turns out. I was unaware, but its success goes beyond his, like, the knowledge of his existence. And so, like, this guy has not only YouTube fuck you money, going back a decade of success on YouTube, but also an active clothing line and other diversified businesses as income. And he's using this fuck you money to basically shut down. Now, to be fair, I do believe Idubbbz has glorified and supported or made excuses for or denied CPS calls being made to Ethan Klein's house. So a validly petty move, like it's definitely like, okay, yeah, there's definitely a reason for them not to like each other. But the thing is, legal precedent doesn't care about that kind of context. It is very possible that Ethan Klein wins this, and details like the fact that Idubbbz was a part of or a supporter of the CPS calls has no bearing on the precedent, and in future cases that precedent could result in some pretty bad rulings. That's what I'm worried about. I think a lot of people are. And just the idea that, like, Idubbbz used to be big money guy, but Idubbbz is broke as a joke now these days, and now you've got super rich Ethan Klein basically trying to bankrupt him, through legal fees. It's a pretty severe level of petty. And once one creator goes viral for doing this, it's going to become a common practice, and no one wants this to be done to them. So yeah, it's going to be broached with quite a bit of negativity, because it feels like you're opening Pandora's box, and you're creating a new method of attacking people that we don't want to normalize. I remember the time when going after a creator's sponsors was, you did not do that. Like, if a creator did something fucked up and then you said, hey, insert company, why are you sponsoring this guy? That was like, whoa, you don't take it to the sponsors, bro. What the fuck? Like, but nowadays that's like go-to way of like attacking somebody's like income, right? So you do want to, there's a reason to worry about chilling effect in this case.
Handle it online without, going over that threshold, the event horizon of trying to use litigation to silence your opponent or something like that. That had always been etched in the stone tablets, the fucking 10 commandments of online discourse. And now all of a sudden, I'm hearing about H3 suing Idubbbz for defamation. So obviously I wanted to hear more about that. And after diving in, hitting that cannonball into the pool, I learned he has a lot of active lawsuits. I think it's 5, maybe 6 against other streamers and YouTubers. So
it's just gotten too excessive at this point. 1 or 2 lawsuits, and it's like, okay. I could almost see this as like a move to be like a warning not to engage in that kind of disgusting behavior, like making false CPS calls and stuff in the future. But man, like, it's really clear. It feels like his new method of like dealing with beef is start a lawsuit, because the amount of money it costs to run a lawsuit is kind of nothing to him, it seems like. So why not?
It's a bit of a rampage he's been on. I knew about one before all this, which was against the snark community. That I did hear about, and that one made a lot of sense to me, actually. The snark community, from what I recall, was doing some diabolical, like, harassing, stalking stuff, sending CPS. Yep. I remember that, and like human skulls.
Big thing is that This is the area where I'll designate a little bit of the video to shit on the other side of the issue. Hassan's community and his orbit are very pro-snarker. For those who don't know, snark communities are dedicated harassment communities. For instance, it was Save a Fox Snark that is highly credited as being the source of the majority of the harassment that led to the death of the suicide of creator Save a Fox. Most snark communities are very, very mean. They're very willing to lie and spread like rumors, and their goal is repetition until complete career destruction for the person they target. So snark communities, and sometimes life ruination, doxing, swatting, CPS calls, that kind of thing. So yeah, snark communities in general are really, really bad. Like any community, then snark. Like we're talking some like Kiwi Farms type shit. But like usually it's presented as woke. And yeah, Hassan and his orbiters are big sweepers and supporters of the snark communities that go after Ethan Klein. And it's obviously, sure, you can align with the fact they don't like Ethan Klein, but the fact that they also make excuses for and even cover for and sweep for behavior like this that those snark communities engage in is insane. Because no one argues when you say, well, look what Save a Fox snark did. Look what all these other snark communities that led to, you know, creators leaving the internet or committing suicide happened, right? Like these are really toxic hate communities, and they all kind of have an agreed upon like brand. Their insert thing, snark. So yeah, I think the snark lawsuit was justified. I think that trend needs to die.
Those things I recalled from like the snark community, so it made sense that he would pursue litigation there, because that is highly illegal fucking psychopath behavior. So that one I remember.
It's literally just woke Kiwi Farms. Like it's basically just Kiwi, like snark communities are just Kiwi Farms, but instead of like racists and right wingers and guys into race cuckoldry porn, it's for like lefties and people who want to like dox, swat, and harass, but with the justification that their target is a racist or a bigot or, more often than not these days, Zionist.
And that one made sense to me. But when I was learning about these other ones, granted, I haven't dove too deep into all of those because this is clearly a lot. I was mainly focused on the defamation one, but man, Ethan Klein has become like the Nintendo of YouTubers. He is extraordinarily litigious. Anyway, enough blabbering. What started this defamation?
It's not a good look. It's really not. It's bad business. It's just, it's not a good look. Like, this really feels like we're opening the page to a new, really scary and bad chapter of YouTube if this continues. You know, like, I don't want to have a precedent where, like, every video you make, there's a chance you're going to get sued for it because you said something mean about a guy, and there's a chance they win because there's a precedent that makes it easier to win when someone criticizes you and you want to sue them for defamation.
Lawsuit was this Idubbbz stream.
Okay, this is my watermark for the stream. I don't want any of my content being stolen. Got another Kalshi ad? I'm sorry, Fazium. We're all getting Kalshi ads these days. It's okay. So I do want to say I don't agree with what's being said.
So for a little bit of background on what we're seeing right now, because it's a little bit insane. Idubbbz is now a Dragon VTuber. That's his VTuber background. And then on top of that, he's putting this sort of transparent Destiny, not tweet, it's like a chat post, this Destiny chat post on screen as like a watermark, I guess to avoid Ethan Klein from clipping him and, you know, trying to turn segments from his stream into content. And so he put this on screen, Destiny saying, quick daily reminder that Ethan from H3H3 is likely a pedo who has molested his own children. Now, to be fair, Destiny did say he was joking, and this is in response to Ethan Klein saying that Destiny's a pedo, so they're just back and forth calling each other pedos. Meanwhile, Idubbbz puts it on screen as like a watermark to ward off getting clipped and farmed by Ethan Klein. I'm going to be honest, this does not seem... Like, I'm going to be real, like, when I watched Ethan Klein try to explain his position, he did not frame it like Idubbbz was putting it on screen in order to make it awkward or difficult for H3H3 to clip him and farm him. Because then that watermark is always there and he has to explain it to any viewers that are questioning, right? So I don't know. This just, once again, feels very, very spiteful. And I think the judge is going to say, so when they get to court, I feel like the judge is going to look at Idubbbz and say, "So are you Destiny?" And he's going to say, "No, I'm Idubbbz." And the judge is going to be like, "So is he Destiny?" Pointing at H3H3. And H3H3 is going to be like, "No, I'm H3H3." And the judge is going to be like, "Why aren't you suing Destiny?" And I don't think the explanation that Ethan Klein has for why he's not suing Destiny is going to work. And the reason he's not suing Destiny, despite the fact Destiny did, even jokingly, did call him a pedo, and has called him a pedo multiple times, is because their beef is very tenuous. They both hate Hassan. They're both somewhat aligned in the people who they hate, and while they don't like each other, they don't hate each other. And that's why I feel Ethan Klein is not suing Destiny instead.
In this comment here, but I'm putting it on screen because I think it should be addressed, because it's a big, bold accusation that's very fucked up.
It is very fucked up, and it's despicable that he would think it's a good idea to post that there while knowingly aware that it's not true. So the message isn't Ian's, this comes from Destiny, and he found this screenshot and he kept it on screen for a very long time. And he said he didn't agree with it, but thinks it needs to be addressed because it's so fucked up. It is a terrible stream. Just giving it to you real blunt, real raw. It is no good. And I'm no stranger to getting shit-talked by Idubbbz. He has said some very nasty, very untrue things about me on his broadcast.
Yeah. Unfortunately, since Idubbbz entered the Hassan orbit, he's kind of put his foot in his mouth quite a few times. I'm not much of an Idubbbz hater, to tell you the truth. I have a hard time hating a lot of people online these days, but Idubbbz in particular has gotten so much harassment and so much hate. It's like, me hating him is like a molecule of water in the Pacific Ocean. You know, why would I waste my energy?
As well. But what is being reported in regards to this stream isn't exactly telling the whole story. Now, when I first heard of this lawsuit, I was reading a bunch about it, but I wanted more information, like, directly associated with it to make sure I wasn't getting, like, fraudulent or misleading shit fed to me. So I reached out to someone whom I know is on the H3 team, and Ethan did hear about that, so he did talk directly about me on his show and challenge me on a few things, and I did eventually get to talk directly with Ethan, and I shared my full perspective on things and the problems I had around it and my concerns, and got his perspective on things to see if there's any misunderstandings and such. Ultimately, I don't think we fully saw eye to eye on this, which, you know, that's going to happen. I fully understand that this is a very emotionally charged subject for him after everything him and his family went through with Snarkers in particular. I know that the CPS and the human skulls incident are like a legitimately traumatizing thing, like the fraudulent CPS call. Like, I get how inexcusable and abhorrent that is.
I understand, like, I'm not a parent, so I can't fully understand what it must be like, but I guess just talking from a creator's perspective, the thing that has always invited the most hate and attacks on me has been vulnerability. Any level of vulnerability as a creator, or any admission of vulnerability, or anything that comes off as a sign of vulnerability, invites hatred, and it invites criticism, and it invites attacks specifically targeted at what people think are your insecurities and your vulnerabilities. And if you're a creator online, you should know this by now, and you should know that if you really make it clear that something upsets you, you are going to make sure that everyone who hates you in the future does that without fail, relentlessly. And so it feels like all this is really doing is, while it might give some very temporary, in-the-moment satisfaction to Ethan Klein, where he gets to shut down some crazies that are celebrating false CPS calls to his house, where they're trying to target his children, because they don't like him, But really all you're doing is signaling to millions of anti-fans and haters online exactly what gets your goat. Exactly what really gets under your skin, and they won't stop. Telling them it gets under your skin will not make them stop. It's just not how these people work online.
Really do. But I just truly don't believe that this lawsuit is in any way, shape, or form helpful to anyone. Outside of the lawyers, they're fucking smiling ear to ear. They're salivating right now, literally drooling with a bib on. But it's harmful to, I think, literally...
No, like, actually, I should go to law school and become one of Ethan Klein's attorneys, because infinite money glitch, let's be real.
Everyone involved, and does have potential ramifications for others way outside of it. I have never and will never be a fan of extreme litigation, and I have always been vocally advocating against creators going that nuclear path, and I always will. Of course, there are cases where it is understandable. Like I said, going after the snarkers that sent a fraudulent CPS thing through and the skulls and stuff, that one I do understand. But this one, I could never support that, and I just can't see the real just cause behind it. And I think it is a terrible example for other creators.
Let it be known, by the way, if any of you guys are ever like, man, is Zan, like, wrong about people like Hassan and the people in Hassan's orbit? And, like, that they are problematic? Like, is he wrong about that? Or is he just, like, spiteful and does he just hate them? Just know, like, I don't think any of those people would ever make a video where they took my side in a situation like this, despite disagreeing with me, and yet here I am doing that for them. Because the fact is, regardless of how I feel about them on insert issue A or issue B or issue C, we're on issue Z right now, and we agree on this one. In fact, this issue is quite important and relevant right now, particularly to, you know, my like hobby, so I consider it quite valuable to have an opinion on. And I think it's important to speak out for what I believe in on this one, even if the people who are the good guys, so to speak, in the story are not really the good guys in my worldview broadly. At least not the good guys in this whole, like, internet drama landscape as a whole. But, man, can't really defend what Ethan Klein is doing now. Like, I know why he's doing it, but at a certain point, it's just, it's self-destructive, and it's just over the top.
In the space to follow, where maybe they believe that even though this is about, like, a Canadian defamation lawsuit, well, maybe they can try their luck in the States. You know, it's not like defamatory lawsuits are exclusive to Canada. There's better protections here, no doubt, but still, if they take from this that maybe the way to fight battles online is to go the litigious route, well, then it's just a huge mess across the board. I think it is just a very bad precedent. Even if, you know, the lawsuit doesn't end in a victory for him, this way of engaging with discourse, I think, has always been frowned upon, but for some reason is starting to get some more support behind it, and I just fully disagree with it. I think that this is genuinely just a, like, big threat across the board to just the entire space. Like, if discourse becomes, you know, fearful of, like, litigation flying back and forth,
it just means the wealthiest YouTubers go without ever being criticized. That's what it'll be. And we really cannot allow that. You know the left will never survive that, right? Like, if it becomes the standard that anytime a left-wing YouTuber criticizes a right-wing YouTuber, they just sue, like, every single time left-wing creator gets bankrupted just because they covered one right-wing chud. Like, we cannot let this become the precedent. All right? The right is loaded. The average conservative content creator is wealthy as fuck. They would absolutely just bomb people with slap suits into silence and basically eliminate all criticism of what they have to say from the internet if they could. Yeah, this is a landscape where the richest YouTubers can silence any and all criticism is not a YouTube where any kind of left-wing content will survive.
Going to stifle a lot of voices and stifle some very, like, legitimate criticism down the line. It's just not something I want to see become commonplace. Now, I did also have a brief conversation with Idubbbz about this as well, letting him know that this really is a horrible thing that he did to try and make his point. And he agreed. He said that it was a legitimately awful thing that he did to make that point, and that it was a genuine, sincere apology that he was issuing and how regretful he was from it. So I did have a conversation with both sides of this to make sure I had like a full, clear picture of where everything was and what this was all about.
I don't know how it works in Canada, if the complaint is public or what, but if you look at it, he emphasizes throughout that he does think it's a serious accusation that needs to be investigated, and that he doesn't think it's a joke, right? Now I know people are like, well, why don't you sue Destiny for saying it? Well, Destiny made it immediately. First of all, this is a comment from Destiny, like made in passing. Ian put it on his screen for 2 hours during his main broadcast. Destiny made it clear that he was not being serious, right? Pretty much immediately after writing it. Like, nobody was like, yo, Destiny...
I don't think that's gonna matter in court, though. Like, you can have that be your justification, but I don't know if the judge is gonna care. Like, I'm gonna be real, I don't think the judge is gonna see it that way.
This claim that Ethan molested his children, oh shit. No, people
like,
knew
I think the judge would just find neither Idubbbz or Destiny committed any kind of defamation. Also, remember, libel is in print, defamation is spoken. J. Jonah Jameson taught us all this when we were kids.
That when Destiny said it was like, he was just being a dickhead, or I mean, he was being a giant fucking piece of shit, right? But he immediately afterwards made it clear that he didn't actually think that. But Ian took that. And just because you're showing what someone else said doesn't make it not defamation, because you're showing essentially this accusation bare of content.
Wouldn't this count as libel, though? Actually, I'm curious. Is he suing for the right thing? Is this defamation or libel? Or would, like, I don't think it's either, but, like, would it be... Would you want to try to sue for libel on this? Well, I guess because it's Destiny who wrote it. So would it be Idubbbz repeating it? Would be defamation, perhaps? This is why I'm not a lawyer.
Text and also kind of saying that you think it's true, right?
Now, after hearing Ethan explain that, I actually made the noble sacrifice of going back and watching the entire Idubbbz stream segment with this in it when he was talking about it. Boy, howdy. I'm not a hero.
So trying to rinse the sarcasm out of a statement could be seen as defamatory. That's basically Ethan's case, too, is that essentially Idubbbz is rinsing the irony and sarcasm from a statement made by a public figure about him and is boosting it and claiming it's serious, which is a different context from what Destiny did, where he was joking, in bad faith, but still, it's a joke. I don't know. I don't know how the judge is going to see this. It's Canada, I think, is where the suit is happening, so it might actually go in Ethan's way. But I know in America, it would be really hard to win this case for Ethan, I feel, in America, where we've got, like, the First Amendment.
It was brave, but I don't need your flowers. That was agonizing. It was heinous, even. It was brutal. This whole segment where he was talking about that, I think, was really, really rough. But I don't recall at any point throughout it him actually trying to argue that it's a legitimate thing or trying to convince his audience that it's real. So I know one of the big things is that it came from Idubbbz, who has actually met Ethan and his family. So there's like this air of credibility around him saying something like this.
I don't know if the judge would see it that way. That's a very YouTube internet brain way of seeing things. They've met in real life, so that lends legitimacy to Idubbbz claiming something like that or boosting a claim like that. I don't know if that... Maybe. If you can make the case to the judge that that's how people online think, then maybe. But I don't think the judge is going to immediately understand that logic. That Idubbbz and H3 having met in real life lends an extra amount of weight to the idea that Idubbbz supported these allegations. I don't think the judge will understand that, like, internet-brained mindset about, like, real people meeting in real life and how important that is on the internet.
But that's just not true. He's not even trying to say anything about it is credible, even outright says that it's not, that he doesn't agree with it. So he's not trying to present it as a real argument based on, any of his experiences knowing Ethan and his family.
Also, I will say that I think Ethan Klein is terrified of this guy. So it's just kind of like legit. It is to me. It's super funny that he has so much smoke for everyone that he thinks he can bully, but the person that he's fucking terrified, he just keeps very overtly running from. And it's like, yeah.
Now, while Ethan is 100% correct that Idubbbz says that this is a big allegation that Ethan should be addressing, he's not doing it earnestly, or at least I don't think he was. It's actually really kind of hard to tell. The whole segment was fucking awful, and the point he was trying to make was really dog shittily done. But what he's trying to say is that clip right there at the end, where Destiny said this extremely outrageous, outlandish, disgusting thing about Ethan, and yet Ethan doesn't have smoke for him, but he does for the other people that he's gone after through lawsuits. I'm pretty sure that's the point he was trying to make by putting that on screen. Like, look, Destiny has said something absolutely despicable, yet you don't have that same energy for him as you do for the others. Unless I've blanked out and like erased moments from my memory from this segment, I don't recall him saying that this is like a serious thing he believes in and is presenting it as such. Like about Ethan is this, and this is a real allegation that really has a lot of water to it. Now, this doesn't change the fact that what Idubbbz did here is completely awful. To try and make this point using
That's the thing about this, though, is like, we really are creating an environment where the left is kind of forced to defend the people who are doing some of the worst shit imaginable online with the like CPS calls and stuff, because the guy who it's being done to is like not exactly aligned with some important leftist views, you know? And I get that. Man, it just, this is not good business, you know? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't think creators should be suing other creators. I mean, the whole point of the original H3H3 lawsuit back in the day was that a YouTuber was suing another YouTuber for making fun of him. And the way that the Kleins made fun of that guy, no doubt, hurt his bottom line, destroyed his reputation, etc. There's a reason he sued. And yet they won because they were creators making critique, using their freedom of speech, and that was another YouTuber trying to shut them down, and everyone was on their side because no one wanted to set the precedent that YouTubers could sue other YouTubers for making videos about them. And I get that claims of pedophilia or whatever are very extreme, but like, this is, I'm gonna be honest. The judge might even have a hard time identifying Idubbbz in this day and age as being someone with any kind of reputation or platform that could make that allegation genuinely harmful to Ethan Klein's career. Like, there's so many like areas from which I could imagine the judge attacking Ethan's case here. It's not the strongest.
that kind of comment with something as monstrously evil as that is just so fucking low. It is. But I don't believe it's how Ethan is necessarily explaining it to everyone, where Idubbbz is really, you know, believing in this. You know, Idubbbz came over to my house, he met my family, now he's going out there saying these things. It is extremely scummy because he did meet his kids and everything, and now he's putting a comment out there like that. That is very scummy, but he's not using it to try and make this claim that Ethan is those things. He's trying to use that to show that Destiny has said something so fucking terrible, yet you are not approaching him with the same energy you have everybody else. That is the point he was trying to make, I think, throughout that segment, at least from everything that I saw when watching it. Granted, it was very hard to sit through, but I'm pretty sure that's what he was trying to get at with that.
Yeah, Idubbbz is not the best orator. He kind of reminds me of me when I started streaming day one. He's clearly not experienced streaming, and is not the best at making his points, putting them into words, getting them through the dome and out the mouth. But it is what it is. Maybe he'll get more practice and he'll get better at it. You know, it takes practice. All you can do is do it. You know what I mean? That's all you can do. Anyway, I don't like this litigious actions. I don't like it. The idea of YouTubers suing other YouTubers just doesn't sit right with me. And I continue to take this position. So, we're just gonna have to wait and see how this goes. Because you never know. A case like this could set a precedent that impacts all of us. By that I mean all creators. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you for watching.